I saw her at my husband's funeral. She was sitting in the back row, alone, not crying, just watching. A black woman, maybe in her early 40s, simple navy dress, no jewelry except a small gold cross. Her face was calm, composed, like she was at peace with something the rest of us were still trying to understand. I didn't know who she was. And at that moment, standing at the front of Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church, looking at my husband's casket draped in white, I didn't have the energy to wonder. Pastor Marcus Thompson, my husband of 32 years, had died 3 days earlier. Sudden heart attack, no warning, no goodbye, just gone. And now I stood in the church we'd built together, surrounded by 1,000 people who loved him, trying to figure out how to breathe without him. But that woman in the back row, I'd remember her face, because 2 days later, I'd learned that my husband had left her everything: the house, the savings, the life insurance, the legacy we'd built for 32 years, everything. Let me start from the beginning. Because to understand what happened, you need to know who we were, who he was, who I thought we were. My name is Diane Thompson. I'm 55 years old. I've been First Lady of Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee for 28 years. I met Marcus when I was 23. He was 26. I was singing in the choir at my home church, New Hope Missionary Baptist, and he'd come as a guest preacher for our annual revival. I remember watching him preach, the power, the anointing, the way he moved through Scripture like he was having a conversation with God himself. After service, he came up to me and said, "Sister, the Lord told me you're going to be my wife." I laughed, thought he was being bold. But 3 months later, we were engaged. 6 months after that, we were married. Marcus was called to pastor Greater Mount Zion 2 years into our marriage. It was a small church then. 150 members, old building, struggling budget. But Marcus had a vision. God didn't bring us here to maintain, he'd say. He brought us here to build. And build we did, for 28 years, side by side. We grew that church from 150 members to over 3,000. We built a new sanctuary, started a school, opened a community center, created scholarships, fed thousands of families. Greater Mount Zion became a pillar in Memphis, and Pastor Marcus Thompson became a name people respected, not just in our community, but across the city. And I was by his side. Every step, every service, every building campaign, every funeral, wedding, baptism, and revival. I was First Lady Diane, the pastor's wife, the one who prayed with the women, counseled the marriages, organized the ministries, held the church together when things got hard. We had 3 children, Marcus Jr., 30, Naomi, 28, and Joshua, 25. All raised in that church, all saved under their father's preaching. We weren't perfect, no marriage is, but we were solid. We prayed together, served together, built a legacy together, or so I thought. The morning Marcus died was a Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. He'd just finished his morning run. Came into the kitchen, poured himself some water, kissed me on the forehead. "Good morning, baby," he said. "Morning," I said. "You want eggs or oatmeal?" "Oatmeal's fine." He sat down at the table, started scrolling through his phone. "Board meeting tonight," I reminded him. 6 o'clock. I remember. "And Mother Wilkins wants to talk to you after Bible study tomorrow about her grandson." "I'll make time." Normal conversation, normal morning, normal everything. And then he stood up, took 2 steps toward the sink, and collapsed. I screamed, called 911, performed CPR like they taught us in the church safety training. But even as I was doing it, even as I was begging God to breathe life back into my husband, I knew he was gone. The paramedics came. They worked on him, loaded him into the ambulance. I rode with him to the hospital. But it was too late. Massive heart attack. Dead before he hit the floor. The doctor said he didn't suffer. I sat in that hospital waiting room, surrounded by my children, by church members who'd rushed over when they heard, and I felt like the ground had opened up beneath me. How do you lose someone in an instant? How do you go from making breakfast to planning a funeral in the space of an hour? The next 3 days were a blur. Family flying in, church members bringing food, deacons organizing the funeral, everyone asking what I needed. I didn't know what I needed. I just needed Marcus. The funeral was Saturday, October 14th. Greater Mount Zion was packed, standing room only. Over 2,000 people, pastors from all over the region, city council members, the mayor. Everyone loved Pastor Marcus Thompson. I sat in the front row with our children, listened to the eulogies, the songs, the testimonies about how Marcus had changed lives, saved marriages, brought people to Christ. It was beautiful, painful, overwhelming, and that's when I saw her. During the recessional, as they were wheeling Marcus's casket down the aisle, I turned to watch, and in the back row, I saw this woman, sitting alone, calm, watching. Something about her felt off. Not wrong exactly, just different. Our eyes met for a second, and she gave me this small, sad smile, like she understood something I didn't, and then she was gone. I didn't think much of it at the time. Funerals bring all kinds of people, old friends, distant relatives, people you haven't seen in years. I assumed she was someone from Marcus's past, maybe a church member from before my time, maybe someone he'd counseled years ago. I don't know. But 2 days later, everything changed. Let me pause here to recap what I've shared so far, because this story has many layers. My name is Diane Thompson. I was First Lady of Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church for 28 years, married to Pastor Marcus Thompson. We met when I was 23, married 6 months later, and built a thriving church together from 150 members to over 3,000. We had 3 adult children, and what I believed was a strong, faithful marriage rooted in ministry. On October 10th, 2023, Marcus died suddenly of a heart attack in our kitchen. At his funeral 3 days later, I noticed a black woman in her early 40s sitting alone in the back row, watching calmly. I didn't know who she was. 2 days after the funeral, everything I thought I knew about my life began to unravel. Now let me tell you what happened next. Monday morning, October 16th. I was at home, still in that fog of grief where everything feels unreal. My children were with me. Church members kept stopping by. Food kept arriving. Around 10 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. It was Attorney Gerald Mitchell, Marcus's lawyer, a member of our church. "First Lady," he said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you, Gerald. I hate to do this so soon, but I need to discuss Pastor's will with you. Estate matters, legal things that can't wait." "Of course, come in." We sat in the living room. Marcus Jr., Naomi, and Joshua joined us. Gerald opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder. "Now," he said, "this is going to be complicated, and I want you to know I advised Pastor against this arrangement multiple times over the years, but he was insistent." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What arrangement?" Gerald took a deep breath. "Pastor Thompson revised his will 18 months ago. In this revision, he left the entirety of his estate to a beneficiary other than you and the children." The room went silent. "What?" Marcus Jr. said. "What do you mean?" "I mean everything. The house, the savings accounts, the life insurance policy, the personal investments. Everything in Pastor's name has been left to someone else." I couldn't breathe. "Who?" Gerald looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes, pity and discomfort. "A woman named Grace Holloway." "Who?" Naomi asked. "I don't know," Gerald said. "I've never met her. Pastor handled all communication with her directly. All I know is she's the sole beneficiary." "This can't be legal," Joshua said. "We can fight this, right?" "It's completely legal," Gerald said quietly. "The will is ironclad. I drew it up myself, and Pastor was of sound mind when he signed it. I just sat there, staring at Gerald, trying to make sense of what he was saying. My husband, the man I'd been married to for 32 years, had left me nothing, left our children nothing, and given everything to a woman none of us had ever heard of. Why? I whispered. Why would he do this? I don't know, Gerald said. I asked him that same question many times. He just said it was what needed to be done, that you'd understand when the time came. Well, I don't understand. I stood up. This makes no sense. Who is Grace Holloway? Why would Marcus give her everything we built together? I don't know, First Lady. I'm sorry. Can we contest this? Marcus Jr. asked again. You can try, Gerald said. But I'm telling you, the will is solid. And even if you contest it, it'll tie up the estate for years, cost a fortune in legal fees, and based on how airtight this document is, you'd almost certainly lose. I felt like the room was spinning. So you're telling me I have to leave my house? Grace Holloway now owns the house. She'll decide what happens with it. And the life insurance? Goes to her. The savings? Hers. Everything? Everything. I sat back down, put my head in my hands, and I wanted to scream, or cry, or both. But I couldn't do either, because I was numb, completely, utterly numb. My children were talking, asking questions, making plans to fight this, but I couldn't hear them. All I could hear was one question echoing in my mind. Who is Grace Holloway? That night, after Gerald left and my children went home, I sat in Marcus's study, looking at his things, his books, his sermon notes, his framed photos on the wall. 32 years of marriage, 28 years of ministry, 3 children, a legacy. And he'd left it all to a stranger. Why? I picked up his Bible, the one he preached from every Sunday, leather-bound, worn, full of notes and highlights. I opened it, and a piece of paper fell out. It was a letter, in Marcus's handwriting, addressed to me. Diane, it said, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've learned about Grace. I know you're hurt, confused, angry, and you have every right to be. But I need you to trust me. Everything I did for a reason you'll understand soon. Please don't hate me, and please, when you meet Grace, listen to her story. She'll explain what I couldn't. I love you, always have, always will. Marcus. I read that letter 3 times, trying to find meaning in it, trying to understand, but all I felt was betrayal. Over the next few days, I tried to learn more about Grace Holloway, but it was like she didn't exist. No social media, no address in Memphis, no phone number, no connection to anyone I knew. It was like she was a ghost, until she showed up at my door. It was Thursday, October 19th, 5 days after the funeral. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I answered it, and there she was, the woman from the funeral, the one in the back row. First Lady Thompson, she said quietly. My name is Grace Holloway. I just stared at her, all the questions, all the anger, all the confusion. It all came rushing up at once. What do you want? My voice was ice. I need to talk to you. About Pastor Thompson. About everything. I don't want to talk to you. You stole my life. I didn't steal anything, she said. And if you'll give me 30 minutes, I'll explain. Explain what? How you seduced my husband? How you convinced him to abandon his family? It's not what you think. Then what is it? She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes, something that made me hesitate. Not guilt, not shame, but sadness. Deep, old sadness. Please, she said, just 30 minutes. And if you want me to leave after that, I'll go, and you'll never see me again. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe I just needed answers. But I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where Gerald had told me about the will. Grace sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded, nervous. Talk, I said. She took a deep breath. I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound impossible, but I need you to hear me out, okay? I nodded. Pastor Marcus Thompson was my father. I blinked. What? He was my father. My biological father. That's not possible. Marcus only had 3 children. Our children. That you know of, Grace said quietly. But there was one more, me. I felt like I was going to be sick. You're lying. I'm not. She reached into her purse, pulled out a manila envelope, handed it to me. This is everything. Birth certificate, DNA test, letters, photos, it's all in there. My hands were shaking as I opened the envelope. Inside was a birth certificate. Grace Ann Holloway, born April 3rd, 1980. Mother, Dorothy Holloway. Father, Marcus Lee Thompson, 1980. The year Marcus was 15 years old. This can't be real, I whispered. It's real. My mother was Dorothy Holloway. She was a member of Pastor's childhood church. They were teenagers. She got pregnant. His family sent him away to college, told him to never contact her again. And she raised me alone. I looked up at her. Why are you telling me this now? Why didn't Marcus ever? He didn't know, Grace said. Not for most of my life. My mother never told him. She died when I was 40. And in her final days, she told me the truth. Gave me his name. Told me where to find him. So I reached out. 5 years ago, I sent him a letter. Told him who I was. Sent proof. And he responded. We met. Did a DNA test to be sure. And it was confirmed. Marcus Thompson was my father. I couldn't process this. 5 years? You've known him for 5 years? Yes. And he never told me? He wanted to. He tried, many times. But he didn't know how. He was ashamed, terrified it would destroy your marriage, destroy the church. So he kept it secret. But he wanted to make it right. So he changed his will, made sure I'd be provided for. By taking everything from us? My voice was rising, from his actual family. He didn't see it that way. He saw it as what? As fair? To leave his wife and children with nothing so he could take care of a secret he kept for 5 years? He left you the church, Grace said. Your position, your legacy, your ministry, that's not nothing. The church doesn't pay my mortgage. I know, and I'm sorry. I never wanted this. I told Pastor he didn't owe me anything, but he insisted. I was crying now, angry, painful tears. Why didn't he just tell me? Why did he have to die with this secret? Because he was scared, Grace said. And I think he was planning to tell you. Soon. But he ran out of time. We sat in silence for a moment. I was trying to absorb this, trying to make sense of it. Do you have other family? I finally asked. No, my mother's gone. Never married, no siblings. It's just me. And you want the house, the money, everything? Grace looked at me. First Lady Thompson, I don't want to take anything from you. But Pastor left me this for a reason. Not because he didn't love you, but because he loved you and me. And he was trying to do right by both of us. Well, he failed, I said, because all he did was destroy everything we built. I'm sorry you feel that way. How else am I supposed to feel? She stood up. I don't know. But I want you to know. I'm not your enemy. I didn't seduce your husband. I didn't manipulate him. I'm just a daughter who wanted to know her father. And I had 5 years with him. 5 years of letters, phone calls, secret meetings, learning about him, hearing about you, about the church, about his faith. And he loved you, First Lady. Everything he said about you was filled with love. Then why did he lie to me for 5 years? Because he was human and scared and imperfect, just like the rest of us. She walked to the door, turned back. I'm going to honor Pastor's will. I'm going to keep the house, the money, all of it, because that's what he wanted. But I want you to know I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm doing it to honor him. And then she left. I sat there in my empty living room, and I felt something I'd never felt before, completely, utterly alone. Let me pause here again to help you stay with me, because this story has taken a heavy turn. I learned that my husband had secretly left our entire estate, the house, savings, insurance, everything, to a woman named Grace Holloway. When Grace came to my home, she revealed that she is Marcus's biological daughter from a teenage relationship he had when he was 15 years old. His family sent him away, and he never knew about her until she contacted him 5 years ago with proof. For 5 years, Marcus kept this secret while building a relationship with her. He changed his will to provide for her, but never told me. Grace showed me documentation proving everything. She said Marcus loved me, but was too afraid and ashamed to tell me the truth. Now she plans to keep everything Marcus left her. I'm left with nothing but the church and 1,000 questions. Now let me tell you how I began to process this revelation and what happened next. The days after Grace's visit were the darkest of my life, darker than Marcus's death. Because death, I understood. Death was part of life. But this was betrayal. My husband had a whole other daughter, a whole other relationship, a whole other life I knew nothing about. And he'd carried this secret for 5 years, while we prayed together, while we preached together, while we celebrated our 30th anniversary, all while lying to me. I didn't go to church that Sunday. I couldn't stand in front of those people and pretend everything was fine, couldn't be First Lady when I felt like a fool. Marcus Jr. preached instead. Told the congregation I was still grieving. Needed time, they understood. But word was starting to spread. About the will, about Grace. Small-town church gossip moves fast. By Monday, my phone was ringing non-stop. Church mothers wanting to check on me. Deacons asking what they should do. Friends offering support. But I couldn't talk to any of them, because I didn't know what to say. How do you explain that your perfect marriage was built on a lie? I spent that week going through Marcus's things, looking for clues, evidence, anything to help me understand. And I found them. In his office, hidden in a box in the back of his closet. Letters, dozens of them. From Grace, starting 5 years ago. I read every single one. The first letter was careful, respectful, explaining who she was, offering proof, not demanding anything, just asking to talk. The response from Marcus, also in the box, was cautious, protective, but willing to listen. And then the letters became more frequent, more personal. Father and daughter getting to know each other. Grace wrote about her life, her mother, her struggles, her faith. Marcus wrote about his regrets, his fears, his love for his family, but also his desire to know his daughter. They were beautiful letters, painful letters, human letters. And reading them, I started to understand something. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't betrayal in the way I'd thought. This was a man trying to make right a wrong from his past. A man trying to love 2 families at once, and failing at both because he couldn't be honest with either. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. I called Grace, asked her to meet me. She came to the house 2 days later. I read the letters, I said. She nodded. How do you feel? I don't know. Hurt, angry, confused. But also, I don't know. Sad for you, maybe? For him? I never wanted to cause you pain. I know, and that's what makes this so hard, because I want to hate you. But I can't. You're just a woman who wanted to know her father. And you're a woman who thought she knew her husband. Exactly. We sat in silence for a moment. What now? Grace asked. I don't know. But I can't stay in this house. It's yours. And every room reminds me of him, of us, of what I thought we were. Where will you go? My daughters. For now, until I figure things out. I'm sorry. I know. Grace reached into her bag, pulled out an envelope. This is for you. What is it? A check for $50,000 from the life insurance. I stared at it. I don't want your money. It's not my money. It's Pastor's. And he'd want you to have it, to help you get started, wherever you go. Grace, please, let me do this. It's the only thing I can do to make any of this right. I took the check, not because I wanted it, but because I was tired of fighting. Over the next few months, I moved out of the house. Found a small apartment near my daughter. Started rebuilding my life. I stepped down as First Lady. Officially. Told the church I needed time to heal, to grieve, to figure out who I was outside of being Pastor Marcus Thompson's wife. The church was supportive, understanding. They gave me space. But I also started hearing things about Grace, about what she was doing with Marcus's estate. She'd sold the house, not for profit, but to a young couple from the church who couldn't afford a down payment. She sold it to them at cost, let them move in with almost nothing down. She'd taken the savings and started a scholarship fund, in Marcus's name, for single mothers pursuing ministry degrees. She'd used the life insurance to pay off the church building debt, anonymously. Grace Holloway wasn't keeping Marcus's legacy. She was honoring it, in ways I hadn't expected. I ran into her one Sunday. I'd come back to church for the first time in months, just to visit, to see if I could still feel at home there. She was in the back row, same spot she'd sat at the funeral. After service, we talked. "You're giving it all away," I said. "Most of it. I kept enough to live on. But the rest? It needed to go where Pastor would have wanted it." Why? Because I didn't need it. I needed him, and I had him for 5 years. That was enough. I looked at her. This woman who could have been my enemy, my rival, my pain. But she wasn't any of those things. She was just another woman who loved Marcus Thompson, in a different way, but just as deeply. "I'm sorry I blamed you," I said. "You had every right to." "No, I didn't. None of this was your fault. It was his, and maybe mine for not seeing the signs." There were no signs to see. He was careful, too careful. We sat in silence. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Of course." "Do you think he loved me? Really loved me? Or was it all a performance?" Grace looked at me with the most serious expression I'd seen from her. "First Lady Thompson, Diane, he loved you. I know that for a fact. Because every time he talked about you, his voice changed. He lit up. You were his partner, his rock, his everything. I was his daughter, his secret, his regret. Those are two very different kinds of love. And both were real." I felt tears coming. "Thank you for saying that. It's the truth." Let me pause one more time to help you stay grounded in this story, because we're approaching the resolution. After learning the truth about Grace, I spent months processing. I read all the letters between Marcus and Grace, 5 years of correspondence where they built a father-daughter relationship. I came to understand that while Marcus had kept a devastating secret, Grace wasn't a villain or a mistress. She was simply his daughter trying to know her father. I moved out of the house, stepped down as First Lady, and began rebuilding my identity. But then I learned what Grace did with the inheritance. She sold the house at cost to a young church family, started a scholarship fund for single mothers in ministry, and anonymously paid off the church building debt. She gave almost everything away. When I confronted her about it, she said she didn't need the money. She only needed her father, and she'd had him for 5 years. That was enough. Now let me tell you how this story ends and what I learned through this fire. Today, it's been 2 years since Marcus died. 2 years since my world turned upside down. I'm 57 now, living in a small house I bought with that check Grace gave me and my own savings, working as a counselor for women in ministry, helping pastors' wives navigate the unique challenges of church leadership. I go to Greater Mount Zion sometimes, to visit, to worship, to remember. But I'm not First Lady anymore. I'm just Diane, and I'm learning that that's enough. Grace and I have developed something I never expected. Not quite friendship, but not enemies either. We have coffee every few months, talk about Marcus, about the church, about life. She never married, never had children of her own. Says Marcus's grandchildren, my grandchildren, are the closest she'll get, and she's okay with that. My children struggled with all of this. Marcus Jr. was angry for a long time, felt betrayed, but he's softening. Starting to understand his father was human, imperfect, broken in some ways, but still faithful in others. Naomi has embraced Grace, calls her sister, invites her to family gatherings, says forgiveness is the only way forward. Joshua is still processing, takes things slow, but he's trying. And me? I've learned something I never wanted to know but needed to understand. You can love someone completely and still not know them fully. You can build a life with someone and still have blind spots. You can serve God faithfully and still carry secrets that destroy. Marcus wasn't a monster. He wasn't evil. He was just a man. A man who made a choice at 15 that followed him for 43 years. A man who found out he had a daughter and didn't know how to tell the truth without destroying everything he'd built. Was he wrong to keep it secret? Yes. Was he wrong to change his will without telling me? Yes. But was he wrong to try to make things right with grace? I don't think so. He was caught between two loves, two families, two worlds, and he did the best he could, which wasn't enough. But it was something. I've forgiven him. It took time, took therapy, took prayer, took a lot of crying and raging and questioning God. But I've forgiven him, because holding on to anger was killing me, and Marcus was already gone. The only person my bitterness was hurting was me, and I've forgiven Grace too, because she didn't ask to be born into this mess. She just wanted a father, and she got 5 years with him. 5 years of secret phone calls and hidden meetings and letters she could never share with anyone. That's not a life I'd wish on anyone. The church thrives under new leadership, a younger pastor, a woman actually. First female senior pastor Greater Mount Zion has ever had. She's brilliant, anointed, and she knows my story. Invited me to be part of a new ministry she's starting. For women who've been hurt by church leadership, by pastors, by the system. I said yes, because if my pain can help someone else heal, then maybe it wasn't wasted. I've learned that legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you do with what's left. Marcus left me with a shattered life, a broken trust, a painful truth, but he also left me with faith that survived the fire. Children who still love their father despite his flaws, a church that still preaches the gospel he believed in, and he left me with Grace, a daughter I never knew I'd have. A sister in Christ who understands betrayal and forgiveness in ways most people never will. Sometimes God's plan doesn't make sense until you're on the other side of the pain. Sometimes the blessing is buried so deep in the hurt that you can't see it until years later. But it's there. I promise you. It's there. If you're listening to this story and you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, especially in the church, I want you to hear something. Your pain is real. Your anger is valid. Your grief matters. Don't let anyone rush you through it. Don't let anyone tell you to just forgive and move on. Healing takes time. And that's okay. But I also want you to know this. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what they did. It's about releasing yourself from the prison of bitterness. You forgive for you, not for them. And truth, when it finally comes out, isn't meant to shame you. It's meant to free you. Because you can't heal from what you won't acknowledge. And you can't move forward if you're still holding on to secrets. God sees you. He knows your pain. He was there when they lied to you, when they betrayed you, when they left you with nothing but questions. And He's still there now, in the aftermath, in the rebuilding, in the slow, painful process of putting your life back together. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. And your story isn't over. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Even when everything falls apart, even when the person you trusted most betrays you, even when your legacy crumbles, God still has a plan. And it's good. I promise you, it's good. If this story touched you, if it spoke to something you're walking through, would you do me a favor? Hit that like button. Let me know this message reached you. Leave a comment, tell me your story, or just tell me you're praying for someone going through this. Your words matter, your voice matters, and please subscribe to Sister Circle Stories, because we're building a community here, a community of women who refuse to let betrayal define us. who choose forgiveness over bitterness, who believe that God can redeem even the most painful stories. Thank you for listening. Thank you for walking with me through this. Thank you for being brave enough to hear hard truths and still hold on to faith. May God bless you. May He heal you. May He remind you that you are seen, known, loved, and never alone. Stay strong, sisters. Stay faithful. Stay hopeful. Because your story isn't over, and the best chapters are still being written. God bless you.